Okay, so this is going to be a review for your first unit test. So basically what I've outlined here is the treble clef and the bass clef. These are all the letter names that you'll probably need to know for the treble clef. Here is middle C. That's something you definitely need to know is where middle C is. It's on this first ledger line here. And then as you look, we have some ledger lines up here. Now remember, ledger lines are what we use to extend the staff because there are going to be pitches that are higher than in the treble clef, and there's going to be pitches that are lower than the treble clef. So we use ledger lines in order to show those pitches as well. So you need to know these here. And then I also have the bass clef right here. And on the bass clef, middle C is still on a ledger line, but it's up above. So this note over here is the exact same note as this one right here. They're both middle C. Now I want to talk about meter. There's going to be several questions talking about meter. So just to make sure that you get the concept, here we're talking about simple. So there's a difference between simple and compound meter. For a compound meter, it's always going to be when there is a 6, 9, or 12 at the top. Otherwise, it's going to be simple meter. Don't worry about anything that's on the bottom. See how this still has a 4, but it's still compound. Just because it has a 4 on the bottom doesn't make it simple. It's all dealing with the top numbers, okay? So for a compound, it's going to be 6, 9, or 12. Then when we're talking about duple, triple, or quadruple meter, obviously 2 is going to be duple, 4 is going to be quadruple, and 3 is going to be triple. Now when you're talking about numbers that are bigger, what you're going to do is divide the number by 3. So if we divide 6 by 3, then you get 2, right? So that means that this would be duple meter. Because you're going to be conducting in 2, we divide by 3. So here we divide by 3, and you get 3, which means it would be triple meter. And here you divide by 3, and you get 4, which would be quadruple meter. So those are the main ones that you're going to see on the test. Another thing you need to know is how many beats should be in a meter. So when we're talking about how many beats, let's say we have 4, 4 here, okay? So remember, the bottom is telling us that the quarter note gets 1 beat, okay? And then the top tells us how many quarter notes we need. So therefore, each measure has to equal 4 beats. And you should know that, you know, a quarter note gets 1 beat, eighth note is half a beat, so therefore and so forth, okay? And so if we have something like 6, 8, here we're saying that the 8th note gets 1 beat. So this is where it's going to be tricky, and you need to make sure that you know this, okay, and know the difference. So this means that 8th note gets 1 beat, and you need 6 8th notes in a measure, okay? So this is going to be 6 beats. So when you're dealing with that, you need to think about one of the questions is saying, how can you fill up a full measure? Okay, for 4, 4, you need to think about what single note has 4 beats, okay, which would be a whole note. For 6, 8, you need to think about what single note would equal 6 8th notes, okay? So let's think about that real quick. If we have 6 8th notes, let's think about if we were in 4, 4. This would equal 3 quarter notes, right? So how are we going to get a single note that equals 3 quarter notes? Well, if you go back and think about dots and what they do, if we have a half note, that equals 2 beats, but I need 3. So therefore, I'm going to add a dot, which means that we're adding half the value of the note to the note. So now I have 3 beats, which would be 6/8 notes. So that's the difference, okay? When you have a full measure in 4/4, you have a whole note. When you have a full measure in 6/8, you have a dotted half note. And that's going to be something that you need to know for your composition project that's coming up on Tuesday. I'm going to give more information about that. Also, you want to know why notes are beamed together. Now, I saw several homeworks that kind of tried to talk about this, but basically, when you're beaming notes together, it has to do with the beat. All the notes that fall into one beat are going to be beamed together. So let's say we're in 4/4 again, okay? And we have several eighth notes. I'm just going to fill out the measure. So here we have 4 beats, right? 2 eighth notes equals 1 beat, 1 quarter note, which is 1 beat, 2 eighth notes, which is 1 beat, and another quarter note. That's a lot to read. It makes it a lot easier if you group those notes together. So we're grouping according to the beats. This is beat 1, 2, 3, and 4. So we group them based on the beat. Okay? That's the main thing that you need to know about that. It has nothing to do with if they're the same note or whatever. You could possibly have an eighth note and 2/16, right? Because that's still equaling 1 beat. So it has to deal with the beat. So the main important thing is just to know how to fill measures. You're going to be given a rhythm and it's going to say fill out the rest of the measure. So make sure that you know how much one of these rhythms is worth, and make sure that you know in 6/8 it's a little bit different than if you were in 4/4. Good luck on your test.